It was the winter of 1988. The world watched as the Soviet Union bled resources in Afghanistan. In Peshawar, in Pakistan, an unlikely alliance brewed in a Spartan tent, one lit dimly by lanterns and heated by ideological fire. There sat Abdullah Azam, a Palestinian scholar and cleric who had become a prominent voice in the call for jihad. He believed it was the duty of every Muslim to take up arms in the defense of the Ummah. With him was a young Saudi, a quiet but commanding presence. He was wealthy, charismatic, and deeply committed to the cause. Hello and welcome to Chaotic Chintan, our attempt at understanding the chaos around us. We come to you today in the most chaotic situation that India has seen in decades.
Worrying news coming in at this point in time. Just suspected terror attack on tourists that has taken place in Jammu and Kashmir.
When we were fighting the war on their side, way back in the 80s against Soviet Union, all these terrorists of today, they were whining and dining in Washington. And then came the 9/11 attacks. Again, the same situation was repeated. I think our governments then made a mistake.
When you say you made a mistake, do you mean in backing and supporting terrorist organizations and using them as proxies?
No, they were being used as proxy by United States also.
Missile strikes were launched by India on Kotli, Bahawalpur and Muzaffarabad. Two of the regions are in Pak-occupied Kashmir and one is deep inside Pak's territory.
There is heightened sense of tension in Srinagar.
On the security front, airports and key border towns and cities remain closed. There is vigil and of course Operation Sindoor Phase 2 is being planned.
Over the last 15 odd minutes, there is a major developing situation in parts of Jammu and Kashmir going right down to Punjab, where there have been massive attacks which are taking place.
Unless you've been living under a rock or in one of the Western democracies, you would have heard about the horrific and inhumane terrorist attack that occurred in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. What was supposed to be a bustling spring tourist season turned into a nightmare. Attackers opened fire on civilians in an isolated tourist location. The brutality was shocking, but sadly not unfamiliar. While Indian media covers it with the urgency and the importance that it deserves, world media often brushes it off as just another flare-up in a long-standing regional dispute.
But we're not going to get involved in the middle of a war that's fundamentally none of our business.
But here's the truth. It's not just a regional issue. The roots of the Pahalgam attack trace back over 3 decades. To a tent, to a meeting in 1988 in the Pakistani city of Peshawar. Since that shadowy camp in Peshawar, the trail of chilling events has never stopped. And we followed everyone so that you don't have to. Abdullah Azam had founded Maktab al-Khidmat, or the Office of Services. This group funneled foreign fighters and funds into the Afghan war effort against Soviet occupation. Azam saw the Mujahideen as defenders of Islam. Maktab wasn't just about war. It had an educational arm too. It preached jihad as a sacred duty, recruiting from across the Muslim world, including fighters from Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and even the United States. Supported financially and strategically by both the CIA and Pakistan's ISI during the Cold War, Maktab had offices in Peshawar, safe houses all over Pakistan and the Gulf, logistical support in London and Hamburg, and sprawling camps across the Afghan border. In the United States, particularly in Brooklyn, New York, the Al-Qaeda Refugee Center became a key fundraising and recruitment hub, widely considered the American arm of the Maktab's ideological network. these locations were not just incidental. They were part of a foundational network for future jihadist movements. Over time, tensions grew between Azam and his ambitious protege. While Azam sought to restrict jihad to defending Muslim lands, the younger man, called Osama bin Laden, had a more expansive, aggressive vision. Eventually, this divergence birthed a new organization, Al-Qaeda. Osama bin Laden took the model of transnational jihad and ran with it. After the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda redirected its energy towards the perceived enemies of Islam, primarily the United States, but also nations like India. As the Soviet-Afghan war wound down, Pakistan's military and intelligence establishment saw a new opportunity, Kashmir. Already a flashpoint between India and Pakistan since 1947, the region was ripe for exploitation, not just for ideological reasons, but also for maintaining strategic leverage in South Asia. After the First Kashmir War, between 1947 to 1948, Pakistan occupied a portion of the then princely state, now called Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, while the rest remained with India. The ceasefire line, later formalized as the line of control, remained a tense divide. The 1965 war saw another attempt by Pakistan under Operation Gibraltar, but it failed due to India's counteroffensive. In 1971, the spotlight was on East Pakistan, where a brutal civil war led to Indian intervention and the eventual creation of Bangladesh. Indian and Pakistani forces clashed in several sectors. And though the war decisively ended in India's favor in the east, the Kashmir front saw localized gains and losses on both sides before a ceasefire was declared. The conflict reaffirmed Kashmir as a persistent fault line between the two nations. By the late 1980s, internal unrest in Kashmir provided fertile ground for Pakistan to exploit. The 1987 Jammu and Kashmir elections, widely believed to be rigged, sparked widespread protests and disillusionment. Pakistan and ISI sought to exploit this situation by nurturing new terror outfits focused on annexing Kashmir, like Lashkar-e-Taiba, founded by Abdullah Azam and Hafiz Saeed. Yes, the same Abdullah Azam that we were speaking about just a few minutes earlier. Multiple offshoot organizations were formed, such as the Hizbul Mujahideen in 1989, and this began a period of terrorist insurgencies in the valley well into the 90s. The 90s also saw successful nuclear tests on both sides of the border and the biggest conflict in Kargil, which saw both nations coming perilously close to an all-out war. Within months of the conflict, the hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC-814 by Harkat-ul-Mujahideen changed everything. The hijackers demanded the release of 3 terrorists, Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh, Mustaq Ahmed Zargar, and Masood Azhar. India gave in, under pressure to save the hostages. Masood Azhar was released. Within months, he founded Jaish-e-Mohammed. What followed was some of the worst terror attacks in Indian history. So why Kashmir? Because for Pakistan, Kashmir wasn't just a territorial dispute, it was leverage. And what better way to maintain that leverage than by keeping the region unstable through non-state actors? The support for these groups wasn't subtle, it was strategic. They were Pakistan's non-state actors. Deniable, expendable, and deeply effective. Pakistan has often admitted to these links, but only decades later and once the damage was done. In the aftermath of the Mumbai attacks in 2008, the evidence was overwhelming, and yet denials persisted until international pressure made them untenable. This wasn't a random chaos, it was a systematic proxy war. Then came 9/11. The United States, once a tacit supporter of the Mujahideen, turned its gaze on its own creations. Al-Qaeda was suddenly the new enemy. Afghanistan was invaded, Taliban rule collapsed, albeit temporarily. Pakistan, now a partner in the war on terror, played a dangerous double game. While handing over some extremists, it continued shielding others. Groups like LET and JEM remained active, but were now focused more on the Kashmir than on the West. Here is a glimpse of the bloodshed these policies brought to soil. December 2001, Indian Parliament attacked. October 2005, bombings in Delhi. July 2006, Mumbai train blasts. November 2008, the infamous 26/11 Mumbai attacks that claimed so many lives. January 2016, Pathankot airbase attack. September 2016, Uri attack. February 2019, Pulwama suicide bombing. Each incident a tragedy. Each incident traced back to groups with known links to Pakistan state establishments. In August 2019, the Indian government abrogated Article 370, revoking the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. The move was bold, controversial in some quarters, and very transformative. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. With greater central control, the government pumped investment into the region. Tourism surged. Infrastructure projects began. For the first time in decades, Kashmir seemed on the verge of a new chapter. But peace doesn't suit everyone. Enter the resistance front, a rebranded version of existing terror groups designed to appear more local and less connected to Pakistan. Their goal? Destabilize. On April 22nd, Pahalgam, once known for its scenic valleys and spiritual significance, turned into almost a war zone. A coordinated terrorist attack claimed over 26 lives, including one foreign national. The attackers were well armed, wore tactical gear, and had clear instructions. From that meeting in Peshawar in 1988 to the massacre in Pahalgam in 2025, the line isn't just visible, it's undeniable. Terrorism in India isn't spontaneous. It's part of a long, calculated strategy, a nexus of ideology, statecraft, and violence. Let no one tell you that this is just a local issue. This is the residue of Cold War experiments, the legacy of proxy warfare that has outlived its original masters. It's time the world stops looking away and starts calling this what it is. Thank you for watching the perspective of this group of Indians on the Pahalgam massacre and the events that led to it. We will be back soon with another attempt to understand the chaos around us. Thank you.